Good morning, everyone. This is Ron. It's Sunday morning. Nice, pretty start to the day uh, in the upstate in South Carolina. So I hope where you are as well, uh, you guys enjoying your weather as well. Well, see if we have any questions on yesterday. We uh, we started off talking about the storms a little bit, the latest storm, and just mentioning it really just the impact that it had, and talking about that being, looking at the rage and the confusion and the chaos that's going on in the earth right now, and it's and it not this country as well, especially this country. What I'm trying to say, and even to look at that and say, the thought I mentioned that I had is there's nothing that can overtake what we do. We believe in ourselves. We believe in what we do. We believe in this journey, and the rages and the chaos uh, have power and energy, but it needs to be repurposed, and that's what we do. That's who we are. And if anybody, from time to time has those why us moments, or why how did we get here, or being one with the Creator, we have that desire. This doesn't take intellect. It doesn't take money. It doesn't take status. It takes a desire and a willingness to step forward and say, why not me? I desire to be here. I desire to do this. So that's who we are. And we after that, Nick uh, came aboard and talked to us about a number of things. He talked to us about the comet. He talked to us about the holidays, and some stuff with Judaism, and some other things I can't think of right now. Uh, and I'm bad at that. I'm sorry about that. Some Hindu, the holidays, and the number nine and 80,000 years and all that stuff he tied together. I want to go back there though, to see if there's anything Nick forgot or something else he wants to add to that, and to see if we have clarity to see how all of that fits into where we are now, what we are experiencing now. Why did this happen at this point of the year, and what does that have to do with the election, if anything, or everything coming to a summit, if you will, and how does all of that fit in, and what are we to glean from it? So, Nick, we'll start with you, and go from there. Does anybody have any questions before Nick gets started on anything? Okay. Nick, you want to summarize for us, and see where we are and go from there, please, sir?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. Um, Yesterday, I was talking about the sort of sign of the times uh, that became apparent to me in the fact that uh, Yom Kippur, the sort of culmination of the Jewish holiday, was yesterday. Um, the end of a Hindu spiritual and religious tradition was also the ended yesterday, and that is called the Navaratri. And yesterday, a comet, which has an roughly sort of 80,000 year cycle, became visible for the first time in about 80,000 years yesterday. And I think that comet is visible for a few days, but the point was the Jewish end of the high high holy, or the high holidays, um, represents in part masculine approach to understanding spirituality. And the Navaratri, which is the Hindu, represents the feminine understanding of spirituality. Really, both of these things there are many layers of religious confusion and interpretation on top of the original spiritual understanding that is at the core of these things. But that core is what is significant. And so we have those two holidays, which do not coincide usually, because the Jewish holiday, the date changes. And then we have the comet. And as I said, that comet is on 80,000 year, an 80,000 year cycle. Now, why is that significant? Because if you are familiar with the concept of the precession of the equinoxes, basically it just means every 25,000, a little bit more than that, years or so, the Earth sort of wobbles, and the sort of north and south pole of the Earth trace a path through certain constellations as the Earth wobbles. And that sort of wobble takes about 25,000 years, a little bit more than that, to complete. And 80,000 years is, these dates are all kind of a little bit fuzzy just because of the amounts of time and the measurements that we're dealing with. But 80,000 years is 3 cycles of about 25,000 years. Well, it's a little bit more than 25,000 years. So it's between 75,000 and 80 for that amount of time. That's pretty precise. But the point is, the coincidence of these two things, as well as the comet, was to me a very clear indicator of the nature of the shift that we are moving through and the choice that we have to respect and honor the sort of balancing influence that the feminine aspect of the creator within all of us, but also within us collectively, is and must, and the role that that aspect of the creator must play in the shift as we move forward. So those 3 things were just, to me, a very clear indicator of, as I said, the choice we sort of collectively have to make. And as I've stated before, I believe that we have made our choice to move to a more harmonious path overall, but we are still dealing with exactly how rough that transition period is going to be.
Nick.
Oh, sure.
I have a question. I was trying to figure out. I was trying to figure out in a spiritual way what do comets represent, and one of the things that I thought was significant anyway is from a couple of sources it calls a comet a snowball of dirt. In other words, it is debris and a bunch of stuff that is kind of collected and sticks together, kind of that orbits out there in space. If that is debris, if it is something that is collecting dust or whatever, is that significant as well into where we are and what we're doing?
I would say no. That's a little bit more. It would be detail that would be sort of unnecessary to the spiritual significance, which is to say the impact in consciousness that our recognition of that comet represents or has. So we can get into the specifics of like how all these things work, but that opens up another huge can of worms about sort of very detailed sort of metaphysical and physics-based things, which are not necessarily necessary for understanding the theme of the shift and also the being an indicator of the energies that are present with us during this time. So the important thing is that, one, it is a comet, well, it is a comet. That it is a comet is not necessarily important, but the point is we can see it, and that it is a marker of a cycle. And that cycle is that 80,000 years, which is 3 cycles of the precession of the equinox. So 25,000, a little bit more than that, times 3, and you get one sort of grand cycle, which is the number 3. It's the completion of a grand cycle of time, or the sort of culmination of the buildup of certain eras of human history and consciousness. And that comet is just an indicator that that cycle has come back around.
Okay,
Or
thank you.
starting something new, or beginning of something new.
Exactly.
Good morning, everyone. Nick and Ron, based upon what Ron asked, if something is gathered, it's gathered for a reason. And if the comets don't gather particles, whatever those particles are, if you remove the comet, does that cycle still take place? And I'm just looking at it from a physical standpoint of, I'm a comet. Miss Barbara's a comet. Miss Evelyn's a comet. Ron's a comet. Nick, Sheldon, bada bang, bada boom. We're all comets with different particles, different personalities. So when we gather, something has to take place. So if the comets are gathering and picking up certain things, if you remove what's being done, do we see it? Do we still see the 80,000 in its correct way? Do you understand what I'm saying, Nick and Ron and Ms. Barbara? Are you? That's the best I can say. It. If something is being gathered and it's being gathered to be a part of that process and that equation, if you remove it, it may not have the full effect of what's supposed to take place. Thank you.
That makes sense. I would say
Could I make a comment?
Sure.
This is Bill, guys. I was determined to sit by and just listen today, but my buddy George has inspired me once again. Okay, the comet. I mentioned the comet yesterday from Scripture, Western Judeo Scripture, that we don't want to be a generation looking for signs. However, when signs are present, it is not silly to be aware of them. Could the comet, regardless of its composition, after all, the being we're talking about, we call the Creator. Who cares? It is not within my ken, K-E-N, to understand why or how the Creator created the comet or what it is created of. The fact that it's back in 80,000 years is symbolic, perhaps not. But if I am a hiker walking on what I think is an abandoned railroad track, and all of a sudden I hear what sounds like a train and I see a big light on the front of it, that's symbolic as well. It's telling me I need to do something. Now, as far as the comment earlier that the Creator is going to be somehow involved, I don't think so. I think historically we have been taught how to respond with good principles from understanding the Creator, what we're being told. But that headlight on that train is not going to move me off of that track. I have been given the skills to get off the track myself before the train squashes me like a bug. I think we are at that kind of place in history right now. We are being given every tool possible to act. But the action must come from us. Going back to Muse.
Thank you.
I would have to agree with that, Bill. Thank you.
So would I. If the comet was not there, the cycle would still be present. As I said, it's more of an indicator. a reminder. And I would, again, don't worry about the details or try to read too much into things like the physical composition of the comet. That would be a case of missing the forest because you're focused on the trees.
I see exactly what you're saying. I guess my thoughts on it were because I think everything is connected, and as we discuss things, we recognize that there are practical lessons here, and there are spiritual lessons, and we try to point out both when we see them and have the opportunity. And I agree. When the signs are obvious, we try to catch them, try to pay attention to them. And that's why this is greatly appreciated, this discussion. I guess, trying to see it from a spiritual perspective, I think man has polluted not only the earth, but the atmosphere. And a lot of what we, even from the words that we speak, are pollution. And I saw this as in a way that, or I was wondering if it could be seen in the way that the comet not only is a sign of spiritual things, as you are pointing out, but it also the spiritualness of, in a way, trying to purify the atmosphere, bringing about a cleansing, and because I still think the timing of all of this is not coincidental. So I just wanted to have you give me any thought from that perspective. But I appreciate the answers given. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Nick, I'm not in disagreement with you because I really know nothing about comets, or I don't have I'm not well versed in astrology. Yet I do know if it's a part of the process, it has to be given some attention to. And if that comet is gathering stuff, and that stuff can be anything, if it's part of the process, it has some kind of spiritual value to it. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, good morning, Ron. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I just wanted to respond with regards to what George mentioned in terms of it has something, to do, with our spirituality. And I think yesterday I just mentioned briefly that, when Nick spoke about the number 9, and he also spoke about, 80,000, in terms of numerology spiritually now, it talks about 9 is the number of cosmic consciousness. And in that cosmic consciousness, it talks about, the importance of a higher awareness of self and purpose. And I think what was said earlier in terms of the importance of virtues when we talk about morals and values, and I just want to, speak of it in terms of how we may be interpreting, in terms of our own self-awareness, but it relates to that higher awareness of self and purpose. So if we can appreciate those numbers, 9 and 80,000, if you again added up the sum total is 17, which is the root number, and 1 plus 7 is 8. And 8 is the number spiritually in terms of new beginnings. So whatever it may mean to us or to me personally, I just look at it as an opportunity for us to be spiritually aware of what, of what we are bearing witness to, not only in terms of what we see and what we hear, but the energy and the vibrations that it brings to our own self-awareness. So I just wanted to share those thoughts in terms of it being a doorway or gateway that we can appreciate continued spiritual enlightenment. I just wanted to share those thoughts. So thank you for letting me share. I'm done.
That was terrific. So, since I'm going to, in my mind, label you as our numerology guy, what may there be of significance in the number 2025? And is Project 2025, given the time it's being introduced to society, any less a symbol than the comet itself? I'll just toss that out there.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. If we look at 2024, that also gives us the number 8. 2025 is the number 9. So as we begin to appreciate what Nick has shared with us, I think it opens up our thoughts, which is important, our words, which is important, and our actions to appreciate morality, our actions to appreciate civility, our actions to appreciate the spirituality in terms of who we are. But I think, Bill, that's something, again, great to look at when we look at 2025. And in that number, like I said, it's 9, and that's what I just spoke a little bit about. But more importantly, I like to even further look into it as you are. So I appreciate your comments, Bill, and everyone. Thank you for letting me share. Again, I'm done.
My
In
brother,
addition
if
to
I may
that-
call
Ron,
you that gave me goosebumps.
Good
I was going to
morning.
say, I haven't. Oh, good morning.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I'll share in a moment.
I was going to add something to what George said. Remember, everything is fodder. It is stuff to create with. And even 2025, meaning a root of 9 numerologically, is something for us to create with. We don't have to accept the negative of it. We can create and transform to the positive, which then gets us to higher awareness of self and our purpose. So even in the midst of trials and challenges, we can get to that awareness as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I like that.
I wanted to also add something to that, if I may. I listened yesterday. Last night, I'm sorry. Last night I listened at the presentation, and excuse me, I agree with everything that was said. It was great. It was an excellent discussion, matter of fact. And as I listened, I saw some things there. I saw that 8 and 1, of course, I'm sorry, Nick talked about the 9 days and the 80,000 years. When you add zeros to a number, according to Gematria, when you add zeros to a number, it becomes, what it does, it emphasizes that number based on the number of zeros you add. And the emphasis that was put on the number 8 are extremely strong, which means that it's set in concrete. It cannot be changed. And what is the emphasis that was placed on the number 8? That 8 is the number of new beginnings. So that is unchangeable, and it is set in stone. The other thing about that is Nick talked about the 9 days. And those 9 days coupled with the 8, as George stated yesterday and today, that was 17, which means also is 8. And there's not simply a new beginning in the way that we may have thought about it. It is a new consciousness. It is a type of consciousness that is entering the earth that cannot be altered, regardless of what your eyes may see or your emotions may experience. It is impossible to alter this consciousness that's been ushered into the earth. The other thing is that George said something a moment ago about the number 9. And in reference to that, if also you look at 8 and 1 is 9, and looking at 2025, what you also see is the consciousness coupled with 1, which is the creator. So when we talk about a new conscious with that amount of emphasis on it, and when we look at it in reference to the origin of this consciousness, it is the creator of everything that is, and that gives us a hard 9. And also when we look at what has been transpiring in the universe lately, when we look at the cosmic energy that has been infused into the universe, and we look at how that has taken place, it comes because of the energy from the sun. And if you look at the electromagnetic field that resulted in the northern lights, what do you see? When you look at the electromagnetic field, you see that that energy leaves the sun, which is masculine, like an ejaculation. It's like a seed being infused into the atmosphere of the universe itself, which is impregnating the earth and bringing into existence a new consciousness. If you have seen the energy leave the sun that creates force fields on the earth, you see how it leaves like a ball, like an ejaculation being pushed out from the sun. So that in itself speaks volumes to me, in that it is telling us what's being made available to us right now. So when we look at and hear all of the talking heads being uneasy about what is to come, what is to come is not coming. What is to come is already here, and it cannot be altered. And there was some also that I think Kathy said. Kathy, are you on?
You mean Kathy Smith? Yeah, I'm on.
Yes, yeah. Yesterday you said something. I'm trying to remember what you said. Added
Only
to the
made one
conversation.
comment, but we were talking about, I think Bill made reference to his neighbor that said she was nervous about Kamala being elected because she didn't know what was going to happen. And we were having a conversation about a female assuming this role. And I made the comment that people were not nervous.
Yes.
These same males
Yeah.
and people that are standing back now saying, I can't vote for her. When it was Hillary Clinton that they were pushing, they were not nervous because this is about the energy of the African woman. And that was the
Right.
point I was making.
Right. And well, the point that I think that I heard when you said that is that her fear is excuse me, of course, of the unknown. Her greater fear is this, that the thing that she is familiar with is not going to exist any longer. And that thing is white male domination. She knows that even though she has been manipulated, even though she knows she's a servant to white male domination, she's more comfortable with that domination. And she is not sure of what it's going to feel like in her life for her to be free from that domination. She knows deep inside of her that yes, it is something different, but she does not know what that difference is. And white women in particular, white men in general, are very, very resistant to any type of change that's not going to allow the white male to be in charge. Thank you. I'm done.
Good morning. This is Audrey. I just
I
wanted
have
to
a
comment
question.
about I'll be done in a minute. I wanted to comment about someone was saying something about the signs of the times and whether or not they actually are or not. I think I interpreted that right, I guess, but anyway. But I think there are always signs of the times. I mean, we're probably the only civilization, this modern civilization of ours is the one that hasn't really paid attention to that. All the ancients, the Egyptians, the Mayans, the Dogon, they paid attention to what was going on in the heavens and on the land. And they are all signs of how we relate to the Creator. But our modern society is one that doesn't really pay attention to these signs. I mean, even look at Milton and Helene. Those are signs of the times, the signs that the earth is warming up and we need to do something about it. But a lot of people don't pay attention. They just go through it and then supposedly get on with their life. So those signs are always there, and they are always there for us to either interpret or ignore to our own peril. Thanks.
Audrey, this is Bill. Thank you as well. To clarify, what I was trying to say was, though we are cautioned against being a generation constantly seeking signs, we also do not want to be a generation that ignores signs when they are as obvious as they currently are. And I love your comment about the storms recently, because I thought over several days now that we're actually seeing a real life conflict between masculine and feminine energy. The feminine energy of nurture, help, hope, sustenance, of all the volunteers, FEMA, and everybody else who's trying to do good in the disaster zone, is almost being drowned out by the hyper-corrupted masculine energy of those who want to turn it into a lie. Again, another sign?
Agreed.
I don't know, but it feels it to me. Going back to mute.
Agreed, Bill.
I think there was someone else had a question. Evelyn, did you have a question?
Yeah.
Or someone else?
I did. Good morning, family. So we may have talked about this previously, but my question is, how does the fact that Biden is 81 and he stepped down, which equals the 9, and then Kamala raised, was it how many million dollars? I forgot. But anyway, I was going to ask you guys, what was the significance of her raising that amount of money and then Biden 81 coincide with what we're talking about today? I forgot that number she raised, that amount of money. That's my question.
She raised $1 billion in the last month and a half.
Okay, never mind.
I don't think.
Do you mean in the first few days, Evelyn?
No, ma'am. When she first came out as it was what, Pastor Jay?
Wasn't it like something like 153 million or something around there?
In the first week and a half, it was 300.
Okay. All right. Well, never mind. That's okay. Because I saw something earlier when you guys were talking, but it'll come back to me. Thank you.
When we talk about the money, I think that is more that it's not so much the numbers or the amount that was raised as what money represents. What does money represent? Money is the most powerful deity in this earth. And it is the deity that everyone is judged by. You have influence if you have money. You have influence if your God, which is money, has given you the opportunity to be something that is considered greater than someone next to you. So what I'm saying in essence is that she has raised up to this date $1 billion, which is more money than anyone in their history has raised for a political campaign. So I'm saying that the God of this world has been um, actually, what is this? What I want to say, the power of the God of this world has been diminished because with the billion that Musk has, the billions that all of the rest of those who supporting Trump has, all of the power in that has been taken away from it. It does not have the luster or the power that it once had. And the reason it doesn't have the luster and the power that it once had is because the power in it is no longer in existence because of the femininity that is controlling it now.
Well, Pastor Jay, it wasn't the amount that she raised, it was the number. It had something to do with the number. Because again, I know that money is not what I was talking about. It was the number that she raised and what was the significance of that number. So that's my point. But I got you. Thank you.
I think my pastor is here with Nick. I want to know if Nick finished and if everybody's clear on what he's saying. Pastor has some insight into what he was saying to make sure, because for some reason that hit me yesterday as being very significant. I want to make sure we're good with that. Were there any questions about that discussion before I didn't want to move on until we made sure we were done with that? That's what I'm trying to say, I guess.
Well,
This is for Mel.
one thing
I yield. Go ahead. I can wait.
no ma'am. You can go ahead, Ms. V.
Thank you, George. I had the feeling yesterday when Nick and Audrey and Miss Barbara were talking and going through the understanding of the events. Miss Barbara brought up the, oh my gosh, the Borealis. And I had suddenly this overwhelming feeling. My question is that our ancestors indicating that we're traveling the right direction? I hope I asked that right.
Is that what you felt?
Yes, I very much so.
Anyone have a comment?
I think it's not our ancestors, yes. The Borealis is actually reflective of the electromagnetic field that was infused into our atmosphere from the sun. That the aurora borealis is a result of that. So that it is indeed a message that tells us that we are indeed on the right pathway, but it's also a message of encouragement. See, this comment that Nick talked about yesterday, the holidays for Indians and Jews, the energy of those things compounded with the desires that we have, and compounded with what we see in action right now. Not only are they a message that we're on the right pathway, but they are also a message that tells us that the balance that we have sought is already here, is in the process of being manifested in the midst of all the chaos that we see with our eyes and experience with our emotions. Does that make sense?
Yes, that does. And thank you for that clarity.
Remember too, we had that big infusion of dust from the Sahara a few months ago. I would imagine that played into the reflection of of the aurora borealis too. See, there's another sign.
So we see the act.
You're breaking up, Pastor Richard.
Which means that they complement each other. Okay. We see that. Can you hear me? How am I now?
That's a little bit
good
clear
now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Say again what you were saying though.
We have seen the masculine and the feminine present themselves in such a way to show that they complement each other. And they have been shown to us in various different ways. Even when you look at the comet, the head of the comet is what, 260,000 miles in diameter, and the tail on that comet is 1 million miles long. So what we're looking at is actually a sperm that is being presented, which is masculine, and the womb of our atmosphere, the Earth energy field, is being impregnated for the express purpose of bringing order to the universe, a type of order that has not been experienced since the demise of the Kemetic mindset. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes, it does make sense. Yes.
I also want to add, I was talking with someone the other day about femininity and the election that's coming up. And I said to them that it is impossible for you to tell me that you respect femininity and you go vote for Trump. That's impossible. You cannot respect Mayotte. You cannot live by the principles of Mayotte and support Trump. And I don't mean Trump the man, I mean the energy that he represents. Because the energy that he represents is energy of chaos, the type of energy that is destructive to humanity, that has no respect for the womb that brought it into existence, and the impossibility of you respecting it, but at the same time supporting an energy that's totally antithetical to it. That's not going to happen. So what I'm saying in essence is this: you can't play both sides against the middle. We are in a place now, a space that the earth has never seen since the entrance of the Greeks into Kemet. I'm done. Thank you.
I love these discussions, and what we came on today with Nick, furthering his discussion and about what he presented to us yesterday, and Pastor coming in and answering questions and bringing some clarity and further kind of opening that up along with everybody else's questions and comments. Do we understand? I remember once we had a discussion where the sages said righteousness makes interpretations. Righteousness opens things up and say what they mean and what. So that is what we're doing. It's not shaping it, but it is opening it up and saying this is what it means for mankind. And I love that, and the power and the energy that brings about. So that's why these discussions are important, and the clarity of them, and all the things that, you know, the signs of the times or the other things that we see to add, that all of those play a role in this. Recognize who we are. Recognize when you hear the voices talking, the masculine and the feminine energy dancing as one. That's who we are, and that's what we're doing. So that's beautiful. Nick, did you or anybody else have a question? Anybody else have a question while we're talking about this? If not, Nick, were you done? Were you done explaining?
I have another question. Oh, Charles, okay. I yield.
Well, I think
All
there was a
right, thank
comment out
you.
there by George.
I'm sorry.
I
Hey,
think
thank
George
you,
was
Rev.
yielded to Propel.
Hey,
You're
thank
right.
you, Reverend. Thank you, Reverend Richard. And this is a question more so to GC out of Philly. As it relates to these numbers, were these numbers designed with a certain kind of energy in them? And the reason why I asked that, many years ago, we were talking about the Samaritan female or the Samaritan woman, and the way you broke that down by what 5 represents. By my interpretation, 5, using Mr. George words or GC words out of Philly, 5 is a working number. It prevents things from bottlenecking. Whatever the nucleus needs, 5 is gonna give it. If the team needs to score, 5's gonna do it. If the team needs a defensive stop, 5 is gonna do it. So my question is, Mr. GC, the way that these numbers were designed, whether it's 1, 2, 14, were they designed with a certain kind of energy in the designing of that number, or any kind of language, if you understand what I'm saying? Thank you.
Yeah, George. Again, in terms of just looking at the spiritual vibration and the essence of numbers, it's an essence or flow of the energy that fills the universe. When we talk about, you mentioned the number 5, for an example, in terms of manifestation. When we look at the number 5, as we're speaking about it today in terms of the cosmos, it talks about the importance of the 5 elements of air, earth, water, fire, and ether. And all of these are components for creative manifestation. And so when we begin to appreciate our conversation today, it represents faith in action, but having a mindful connection to the synergy of the forces of nature. And so, the cosmos, as we say, as above or below, I think it has its relevance to, the spiritual energies. And I think this is the importance of the numerology, which is part of the sacred holy arts of ancient people, you know what I mean, in terms of our beginning when we talk about a Kebelon and how our ancestors were able to appreciate astronomy, astrology, numerology, and etc. So hopefully that gives some understanding, George, of what you're asking. But again, we know that, again, when we talk about the cosmic mother, the African mother on the throne, we're talking about, again, the importance of mathematics with regards to it coming into existence because of the cosmic woman, because her cycle, menstrual cycle, and being able to commune with cosmology, it has its relevance and purpose. So hopefully that gives you some understanding, George, hopefully what you're asking. But if not, please let me know and I'll try to maybe further expound on it. I'm done.
No, hey, well, thank you, Mr. George.
May I,
Yes, sir.
may I add something to that?
Yes, sir. Go ahead. My bad.
Mathematics, according to the committed understanding of it, is much of a language as as is verbal language, meaning that a number is someone. Would you mute your phones, please? Hello. Okay. The numbers carry the same energy as letters. It is a language that speaks to space, while letters seeks to explain the space that the numbers represent, or that the energy of the numbers represent. In ancient languages, the letters were represented. I'm sorry, the numbers were represented by letters, and both of them are forces of energy. So when you talk about the number 5, what do you get? George talked about a moment ago what the number 5 talked. He mentioned manifestations. How do you know he said manifestations? Because he used words, and those words consist of letters, and the energy of those words is reflective of the energy of the number that he used in his explanation. Does that make sense? And George, did I miss it? GC.
No, that's on point. On point.
But not only numbers and letters, but also shapes, hence sacred geometry.
Yes.
You know, like a triangle has 3 sides, a square has 4 sides, and, you know, a hexagon has 6 sides, all that also is sacred or has spiritual energy.
So Audrey,
Bill here. I have
the sacredness
go
of
ahead.
it.
Sorry,
So
say again.
why is the sacredness of it? So why is it sacred? It is sacred because it gives us insight into not only the universe, but the feminine energy that brought everything into existence and that sustains it through nurturing. Would you mute your phones, please? That sustains it through nurturing, and which means that the sacredness of it comes from the femininity. And the reason the sacredness of it comes from femininity is because the birth of mathematics was based upon the menstrual cycle of the female.
Okay, Bill here. I have a question. Perhaps I'm being naive. Perhaps it's just a demonstration of my emphasis on this pilgrimage. But math being a science, geometry, mathematics, where you have a number or numbers which put together in certain formulas give a definite answer. Boy, that just feels masculine to me. Whereas the other side, the feminine, perhaps, if you will, is more intuitive. Are there people who need the numbers? Like, I don't need the numbers to know there's a comet. I don't need the numbers to know we had a storm. I don't need the numbers to know that Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump is almost an epic real-life portrayal of all the ancient novels and tales and epic poems of good versus evil. But the numbers seem to matter so much to some people. And at the same time, again, it feels tremendously masculine when I hear the discussion. Is it a manifest of a beneficent, if you will, form of masculine energy displayment versus those of us who look at those who almost in a sense worship the numbers and say, well, we knew that all along. I didn't need numbers. Going back to mute.
Well,
You're
I will
right.
say
You
this,
don't need
Bill.
numbers.
I can help with that, I think, just to give my understanding. Yes, the number is very complementary with geometry, and it's a little bit like numbers are like how we say left versus right brain. Numbers are left-brained, geometry is right-brained. But when we notice that people who like need the numbers, quote unquote, it's like an overemphasis on the intellectual objectivity and the aspect of consciousness that is. So it's like a spiraling downwards obsession with complexity and that way of describing reality in that particular way as a result of your own mentality. So as I said, they're complementary, but an overemphasis on the need for that kind of description or explanation is similar to what we're talking about, in that there's a great sort of out of balance energy that we are trying to deal with in the direction of typically masculinity, but whatever it is, but it's sort of out of balance and obsessed with a particular way of trying to understand reality and the universe. They are, of course, helpful, but there is a difference between helping describe what is using them versus worshiping them and trying to fit everything that is within that way of understanding. Thank you.
I.e. my
Nick,
crowd
Thank you.
size.
About what I thought.
I want, no, go ahead.
I.e.
Go
my
ahead,
crowd
Bob.
size are my billions and my billions. It's the emphasis, as Nick said, that we put on it, and when we get it imbalanced, and we lift that as higher than anything else. That is what causes the imbalance. It causes us to focus on numbers being more masculine in a sense, or chaotic in a sense, when they are really not. Everything is balanced. In perfect balance, there is a creative component as well as a nurturing component, as well as a giving component, i.e. masculine femininity. So numbers don't have to be overtly masculine. They can appear to be, depending on the way that we interpret them and the way that we show that they are more important to us, i.e. my crowd size, and i.e. all the money that I make, in a sense.
We have attempted to make math masculine. Math is feminine. It comes from, the word math comes from maya. And maya is feminine. No, we don't need the numbers. However, we do need the numbers. We don't need them the way they have been used. We don't use need the mathematics the way it has been used. However, we do need it in order to get a complete understanding, not only of who we are, but also an understanding of the universe itself. And what we have done, we have attached masculinity to numbers by virtue of saying that females are not capable of learning mathematics, or that females should not be engineers. Females should not have any career that involves mathematics, which is dumb, which is actually antithetical to spirituality itself, because everything that exists in this earth was birthed through a womb, and math is no different than anything else. We have a tendency to assign these roles based upon gender as opposed to based upon spiritual energy. And the spiritual energy definitely, the spiritual energy rather, that's attached to the shapes or the letters, the words, the math, all of those are the same energies. They are simply different expressions for the purpose of understanding our environment. I hope that helped.
Well, good morning, everyone. Again, one reason why we may look at math as masculine energy, and that's a correct way to look at it, because math is exact. There's no gray area when it comes to math and science. The minute you implement gray area in math, put it like this, my experience, there's no degree of ambiguity when it comes to math. You are either correct or you are incorrect, because it's exact. In my education, I have never met a math courses of study where there's exactness. They don't round up in numbers. if a 69.6 is a F, they're not rounding that up to a 70. You're going to get what you get.
George, let me ask
So
you a question.
math,
George, let me ask you a question. I'm trying to understand what you're saying. Are you saying that math is masculine
no, I'm not
because
saying
it's
math
exact?
is masculine.
Is that what you're saying?
No, sir, I'm not saying that. And thank you for allowing me to clarify that. I'm saying this is why some people could view math as masculine. Math is not masculine. However, based on what kind of soil we're on now, we don't have any appreciation for femininity. It is very much easy to detour down that avenue where we look at math as masculine. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Math is very much femininity. When you stated, Reverend Richard, money is the highest energy out here, yes, it is in the physical and the material world, yet in the spiritual world, femininity is the highest energy out here. Then after femininity, then there's trust, and after femininity and trust, there are others. So I'm just saying, based upon what Bill said, how a person can look at it as masculine. When I'm in a discussion with people who are educated, the ones who have degrees such as I in criminal justice, political science, social work, therapy, they have this phrase amongst them, someone's perception is their reality. Yet if you ever get into a discussion with Craig, Joe, Tim, they don't use that phrase because they deal so much in numbers from a chemistry aspect, from a banking aspect, from a math aspect with Joe. You have to be exact. There's no gray area with Joe, Craig, or Tim. They either going to be correct in what they say, or they going to be all the way wrong in what they say. They don't believe in partial credit.
I need to interject in this because I don't want to get into an academic discussion about what not. I want us it's reality.
Rev, you breaking up.
If that's what they okay, well, we are traveling at the moment, so please let me know. And I thank you for letting me know that. What I'm saying is that I do not want us to get engaged in an academic discussion about whether math is masculine or feminine. We've established that mathematics, the word math comes from the feminine mayat. Secondarily, one's perception is their reality. None of us have the right to determine what someone else's reality is. So whatever they perceive their reality to be, that's what it is to them. Does it make it real? No, it doesn't. Because we felt like our perception of religion was our reality, and dying and going to heaven was a reality to us. We're going to look at it more deeply than what we were taught. And then we began to realize that it's not real. So there is a shift. There was a shift and still is a shift in our perceptions of what reality was and is. So if I may, I would strongly suggest that we continue looking at the relationship between what was presented on yesterday by Nick and others in terms of their responses to what Nick shared with us, as opposed to entering this academic discussion about the values, not the values, but the essence of mathematics and other sciences. Thank you.
Okie doke then. Well, in conclusion, Mr. GC out of Philly, we gather on this lessons at 10 o'clock on Saturdays. 11 o'clock on Sundays, and 6 o'clock on Monday. That number is 20, what is that? 27, I think. 21. Yeah. If you can develop a lecture on what the number 27 means by the Hebrew language, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Received.
I thought someone else had a question as well. George, are you gonna follow up on that or
Yes, yeah. 27. 9. I'll follow up.
Hello, everyone. This is Sheldon.
you gonna? Hey, Sheldon.
I missed parts of the past minute and couldn't respond, but
Yes, sir.
I wanted to say I know Pastor Richard wants to say one thing in regards to mathematics and femininity that is often overlooked to Bill's original comment. Since I was rushing in some places I could actually speak. Yes, mathematics only on its basic levels is very, I guess, intellectual exercise. When we look at science, the only thing that science is humans essentially trying to understand creation, the creator, etc. Therefore, science will never be the prominent thing in terms of determining what is. It's just trying to understand what is. Now, if you look at mathematics and you actually keep on going, anyone who's delved deep into mathematics, like physics and things like that, you get to the point where mathematics no longer follows just the regular human intellect. Simple one that most people know of is pi. You have irrational numbers and things like that just keep on going, and they're infinite. And when you get into advanced mathematics, and these unsolvable mysteries that we have, as quote unquote humans, been trying to solve for thousands of years, that is when you get into the femininity nature of mathematics, and as Audrey was speaking in terms of geometry, et cetera. But anyone in super advanced and doctors in mathematics, they all know these particular things in terms of numbers not working as we suspect and hopefully even think. They have their own rules once you get to a very advanced nature. That is all.
Thank you, Sheldon. Thank you. Appreciate that. That does help. It does bring a little more clarity. Anyone else? Anyone have any comments on what Sheldon just said, or?
One last thing.
Yes, sir.
I was going to say one last thing. No, not a problem at all. If you want to think about mathematics in terms of the easy way of understanding, it's pretty much understanding the regular physical nature of the things that we can see and we touch every day. But then when we delve further and further in there and actually understanding that from a physical standpoint, like objects do not exist in the way that we actually see them, that is when advanced mathematics actually comes in. And it's more so the spiritual nature of mathematics. So literally all of creation, in a sense, is, I don't want to say built upon mathematics, but mathematics is involved and is an underlying thing in it. But just to look at mathematics from a masculine standpoint is only look at it through the two eyes and not to look at it through the eye. And like I said, once you get to those like theoretical mathematics and things like that, you have to actually go beyond just using your intellect. And it's almost as if it gets to the point where math is being created, in a sense.
Well, you know,
In
You're
the
not
same,
done yet, because I'm this. I'm sorry, somebody else was talking. Go ahead.
sorry,
Was
Ron,
that
I was just gonna add to what Sheldon said.
yeah.
But it's the same way with science. I mean, simple science is pretty finite, but when you get into quantum physics and particle physics and all of that, it's mind-blowing and not at all finite.
And to your point, Audrey, in quantum physics, in some math problems, the answer is literally what your mind wants it to be. Going on and being on creation. So it's not as if the math is outward and the math is being determined by some predetermined thing where it must work this way. But again, now you are actually creating in a sense because you're having an influence on it. And therefore, because you're having an influence on it, it can't be said that it's just some concrete black and white definite answer. Or a predetermined answer.
And a particle is where you look. So did you create it? Yeah, it's crazy.
Yes, you did. And well, but the reason your influence alters it is because you're God. That's why it alters it. Because you are God. You are the creator. And what has happened, we have not been educated. We've talked about this. We have been trained. And in our training, we see everything as being scientific as opposed to divine. We have talked about the influence that we have by observing particles. We talked about that, but we have not talked about the reason we have that influence on those particles is because we are creating them. Subconsciously, whatever our mindset is, that's what we're bringing into existence. Now, I do believe that the summary of what Nick presented to us, if I may offer a glimpse into that, but by no means completely what he offered us in sharing yesterday, but what we see is a combination of things that is being presented to us from the universe. The reason to being a combination is because all of us perceive differently and we learn differently. So the different aspects of the universe that has been presented to us, whether it be a flare of energy from the sun, or whether it be a comet that has shown up, that's showing up now after 80,000 years of being invisible to us, or whether it is the aurora borealis, whatever it is, borealis, whatever it is a message to us. And I do not believe that we can spend too much time reading the signs of the times. I do believe, as Audrey stated earlier, that we have, in quote unquote modern times, have overlooked it when it was a constant for the priesthood of Kemet. The priests in Kemet were not just religious, were not religious people. When we think about spirituality, our minds leads us to what we thought spirituality was. There is no difference than the Kemetic understanding of spirituality and what we call science. All of those things are one thing. And now we are being reintroduced to the Kemetic mindset. So in this reintroduction, what we are being shown is that there is no difference between the two. The only difference between the two is that we have been trained by a European mindset, which a mindset that determines what it wants something to be, as opposed to being shown what it is on its own merits. The Kemetic mindset did not develop an understanding of a calendar because it was what they wanted it to be. They observed what they saw. And that is the reason the calendar that was developed during the period Kemet was more accurate than any calendar that was developed subsequently to that, especially the ones that we are using currently. They are so far off base, it's not even funny. So what I'm saying is, our trained mind allows us, persuades us that whatever we think a thing is, that's what it is, and that is totally antithetical to who we really are. Thank you.
Hey, yeah. I want to see if I can add to that, or at least give my 2 cents worth on it. It is no coincidence that when you study Kemetic education, they started with their children. They started when they were infants. I read something that talks about the child being 2 years old. But the basis of everything that the child learned started with mathematics. And everything from that point on, that was its root. Math was its root. So when we look at this and what Sheldon and Audrey talked about, and Pastor concluded as well, the creation portion of it, and the particle, you do create that particle. That's been scientifically proven, that by observing something, you can create that particle. Same thing that we're witnessing. What if we created the planets lining up? What if we created this comet? What if we created all these things so that we could pull the numbers out and create from them? What if the 8 and the 9, the 80,000, the practical part of that is so that scientists can have something to investigate and keep them busy. But the spiritual part of that is the 80,000 is what you brought into being so that you could create from it. So all these things that we've been looking at, all these from the sun to the everything, that what if it was being created? We talk about time speeding up. We talk about time slowing down. What is all of that as part of this creation? So that we can bring numbers into play and bring all these things together. All these numbers that are happening coincidentally in the last 5-6 years or so, when we got on this part of this journey. You are the creator. We are the creation that we are discussing right now. So when we talk about this, and I'm not being arrogant when I say, what do you want to see happen out this? It's not so much that we are and this it's not so much that we are to read what this is saying to us. Yes, but also, what do you see in it? What do you want to see happen out of this? What we've been talking about: truth, forgiveness. All of this is tied in. This is what we're creating. These are the tools that are being shown to us that you bring into being by observing what we are observing on this journey. None of this is coincidental. And we're all creating this from mathematics. Shapes, angles, numbers, all of this is coming together. I hope, does that make sense at all? Because I'm not agreeing with what everybody's saying. I'm just kind of saying it in my words.
It makes perfect sense. We are both the potter and the clay. Going back to mute.
Balance.
Who are we? Who are we? Questions or comments, anybody? Okay. Thank you. I hope everybody got a thought from this. If not, be a good place to start tomorrow, and see if they have any questions. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Talk to you tomorrow.